Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about monohybrid crosses, but I want to just take a little step back and look at when we did chromosomes, genes and alleles. Just a quick recap. So in a cell you have the nucleus, and in the nucleus we have DNA. Now the DNA is coiled up into chromosomes, and in humans we've got 46 chromosomes. 23 come from mum, 23 come from dad, and they are arranged during cell division into what we call homologous pairs. So for any pair, one came from mum, one came from dad. Okay, one came from mum, one came from dad. And since chromosomes are made from DNA, the chromosomes that coil up from the chromosome, the DNA that coils up, and the chromosome that comes from dad carries genes, information that you got from your dad, and the other one carries information that you get from your mum. Now, there is no rule that says for any specific characteristic you have to inherit the same information from your parents. So, for example, here you see we have these two alleles here, sections of DNA on a homologous chromosome, and they're different colors. That means that the information you got from one parent was different for that characteristic than the information you got from your other parent. So maybe you inherited the allele brown hair or black hair from one parent and blonde hair from the other parent. Since we're talking about characteristics, and any given characteristic, if you talk about hair color, that's the characteristic. You could have blonde hair, you could have black hair, you could have brown hair, you could have red hair. All those different genes, all those different hair colors are what we call alleles. And so you can see here that this person with this cell did not inherit the same alleles for hair color from each parent. Same over here with eye color. Maybe they inherited a blue allele for eye color from mom and a brown allele for eye color from dad. These are different. So if you inherit different information for a particular characteristic, you have different forms of the gene for eye color or hair color, we say you are heterozygous. You can also inherit the same information from each parent. So maybe this person inherited the same information for whether it was straight or curly hair. Okay, so you can see they've got the same allele for that characteristic from each parent, in which case they are homozygous. Okay, so we've got homozygous and heterozygous. What we do with monohybrid crosses is we take the alleles that the parents have got and we work out what the offspring could look like. So I'm going to start with a very simple one. This one helps you learn the rules, okay? And it's really important that whenever you do this, you do it exactly the same way every time. That way you don't miss a step and it kind of makes sense. So I've got two people here, and these two people are going to have babies together. So that X there means that they mate or they breed or they cross-pollinate or whatever type of organism it is, and they have offspring. And this person has brown eyes. Oh, it doesn't show up too well. And the other person has blue eyes. Now, I'm going to give you a term here. This brown eyes, they inherited the same characteristic from each parent. So they are homozygous, H-M-O-M-Z-Y-G-O-U-S. They are homozygous for eye color. And the other person who has blue eyes is also homozygous for eye color, H-O-M-O-Z-Y-G-O-U-S. What that means is this person inherited the same characteristic, the same alleles for eye color from their parents. And I'm going to show that in their body cells, they would have 2 brown alleles, okay? So this is the one that they inherited from mum. This is the one they inherited from dad. This person is also homozygous, so they inherited 2 blue alleles for eye color, like that. Now this would be, because you can see the chromosomes are in pairs. I've only drawn 1 pair. There are 23 more pairs in each cell. But because they're in cells, in pairs, that means these are somatic cells. They're body cells. Skin cells, nerve cells, muscle cells, blood cells, right? They're all the body cells because they're in pairs. And if you remember, somatic cells undergo a process called meiosis to produce gametes. And in gametes, the chromosomes are no longer in pairs, they're in singles. Because remember, gametes are sex cells. And the only thing, excuse me, the only thing male gametes want to do is meet up with female gametes. So the only thing sperm cells want to do is meet up with egg cells. Okay, so we know that this person is going to produce gametes where the only information for eye color is brown. This person is going to produce gametes where the only information for eye color is blue. Okay? Now, I need you to see what this is here. This is called a Punnett square. Punnett squares are nothing more than, they're like multiplication tables that you did when you were in middle school or elementary school. All right? If this multiplies with this, then this is this. So if this was 4 and this was 2, where they meet is 8. Okay? So what a Punnett square, which is what this square does, is it says, if these gametes here fertilize these gametes, what would the offspring look like? So if this sperm cell and this egg cell meet, what you're going to get is a brown gamete and a blue gamete, like that. But what if this sperm cell met this egg cell? Well, what we would get is a brown gamete and a blue gamete. Okay? What if this sperm cell and this egg cell met? A brown, let me go and fill these 2 in here. We would get a brown gamete and we would get a blue gamete. And then over here, this sperm cell, this egg cell, yet again, we get a brown gamete and a blue gamete. Now, I want you to notice something. Remember how dad was homozygous brown and mama was homozygous blue? Well, look at the offspring now. What this means is every time they have a baby, it could be any one of these 4 options. And what we notice about all of these is they've got 1 brown and 1 blue, which means that all the offspring are not homozygous, they are heterozygous because they have inherited different information about eye color from each parent. Okay, next bit. Dominant and recessive. Those are 2 terms that you have to get quite comfortable with. And I'm going to tell you this. Brown, which we're going to use a big B, is dominant. Blue, which I'm going to use a small b, it's always a small version of the capital letter, is recessive. Okay, what does that mean? It means this: you only have to inherit the brown allele from 1 parent in order to have brown eyes, because dominant alleles mask, that means they cover up recessive alleles. So the only way you can have blue eyes is if you inherited the blue allele from both parents. So I can go back up here and I can say that this person, because they got two brown alleles, they were big B, or homozygous dominant. And this person over here, because they got two blue alleles, was homozygous recessive. This is their genotype, which alleles they've got in letter form. That's the genotype. So daddy was big B, homozygous dominant. Mama was big B, little b, homozygous recessive. And these are the possible options. So you could be big B, little b, because that's what's in. These are big B's, right? And these are little b's. So they got one of each, big B, little b. Number 2, they got one of each, big B, little b. Number 3, they got one of each. They are heterozygous because they've got different alleles. And number 4, okay? What color eyes would this person have? You only need to inherit one dominant allele to have that eye color. So the big B masks the little b. This person would have brown eyes. If it was number 2, it would have brown eyes. And number 3. And number 4. So if the heterozygous genotype, big B, little b, is present, which it would be 100% of the time, the phenotype, which is what that genotype looks like. What does big B, little b look like? It looks like brown eyes. The phenotype is called the expression of the genotype. It's basically what it looks like. So if this person and this person have children, there is 100% chance the children will have brown eyes, and there is 100% chance they will be heterozygous.